But we always like to jump into our sessions with a couple of deep breaths to really get us started. Now it's 5:30 here in California. If some folks are out of state, wherever you are, still finding that time to rest, relax, and recenter. So do yourself a favor, get really comfortable in your chair, letting your shoulders relax, letting your spine be tall, breathing in and out of the belly, and then just letting go and tapping into it and into the breath. So we're going to start this session up with 3 deep breaths. And these may be the deepest breaths of your entire day. Just see yourself bringing in everything you need and releasing everything that no longer serves you. On a count of 3, we start. 1, 2, 3. Deep inhale, slowly filling the lungs, the diaphragm in the belly. And a long, slow exhale. Relaxing and releasing. Let's do 2 more of those. Long, deep exhale, breathing in. And release with a softening, calming exhale. Let's take 1 more deep breath in, breathe in. And relax, release, letting it out. Good, good, good. Whew. All right. I'm ready. I'm fully here and ready to go. Cool, cool, cool. So I am James, that yoga dude Woods, and we are going to get into our workshop, but really about equity. So equity is a word that I've heard several times. I had to look it up the first time I heard it. I found the definition of it, but I heard it a lot being in education, and I wanted to figure out how we can bring social emotional learning into equity and really make social emotional learning an equitable practice. So if you're not familiar with social emotional learning, we'll jump into that as well. But social emotional learning and equity are some things that have really been on the top of the mind of a lot of educators and folks who work with children. And they both are looking at how systems operate to ensure that youth and adults are getting what they need to perform academically, to perform as well as their behaviors. So we want to make sure it goes beyond just the performance and create an equitable, healthy lifestyle for youth and the service and the communities that they live in and the teachers that serve them. So I have a presentation for you guys, you folks, and I'm going to share it. All right, just 1 second as I get my screen going and everything. So one of the biggest things that really got me into this work was really being able to have access to creating equitable opportunities for youth. Now, when I was doing it, I didn't know what equity meant. I was just, hey, I want to make sure this person has this and that person has that. But being able to provide youth with some of the tools to help them really feel like they're getting everything that they needed, and the parents and the teachers and staff as well. So 1 second, my computer is deciding to move a little bit slower right now. Okay. That's weird. Okay, sorry about this. 1 second. All right, here we go. Are you all able to see the slides? Okay, cool. All right, so this is the equity in SEL. Nice. Cool, cool, cool. And anytime you can, yeah, thank you for the thumbs ups and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this information and share with you, and then we're going to have some points where I'm going to ask if you have any questions. So when we get to the points, we're going to bring you guys and your questions in so we can go deeper into this. We do want to really expand and go deeper into what equity looks like and how we can bring SEL into it and really create a structure and a dynamic structure to make sure it works for the students and works for the youth. So I thank you so much for being here tonight, all the way from YOLO and Sacramento and all the way to LA and Orange County and Riverside and everything in between. So thank you all so much for being here. And this is me. So this is me. If you guys can drop in the chat, what do you guys think this is my what was I graduating from in this? If you guys can drop in the chat and let me know what you guys think. This is a young man who, all right, it's funny. This is a young man who was able to definitely do some growing and thankfully do some growing. Move this out the way. Oh, wow, okay. You guys, you look like an 8th grader. That's funny. All right, middle school. That is funny. This was my high school graduation. Now, this was big for me to graduate high school. I was a moody, anxious teenager, and I was able to hide it behind football pads and basketball and playing sports and just hanging out with friends and playing video games. But when I was in 9th grade, when I came to 9th grade, well, prior to coming into 9th grade, I took a test like most 9th graders do. And it was a test to find out, hey, where are we going to place you? How are we going to track you? Math, no. I need a calculator to go to the laundromat and make sure I have enough quarters. But in English, I did pretty well. And I was able to make it into the advanced placement English class. By the time I made it into the advanced placement English class, this was the first time I've ever had any advanced placement classes. I get in there and I look around and I don't know anyone in there. And I really don't see anyone else that looks like me in there. And then they start talking about, hey, you were going to have to read this book and read that book, books that I had just were not familiar with and not interested in all. So I lasted in the AP English class probably about 2 days before I asked my counselor, this is not where I belong. I need to transfer out. I need to get out. They put me into a regular English class. I saw my friends. I copied their homework. They copied mine. I got my C and I was able to skate by. But I think about it now, if I was able to stay in that advanced learning class, the opportunities that would have been passed to me, the different things that I could have learned and different exposure that I have. Majority of students who are engaged in student government, who are engaged in college preparatory classes are in these AP classes. And true, they have intelligence, they are gifted, but studies have found that the biggest thing is that their network, their social network. You go in those classes and that's where you find the kids who are usually doing the things they need to do to get in college. Those are the kids who are taking their education serious, that are learning, that are challenging each other. And those are the kids who also have access to the resources. It was a study of counselors, and counselors in a high school spent 75% more time talking about colleges in their AP students' classes than they did in regular classes. And okay, a lot of the counselors thought, well, it's because these are the kids listening. But when they figured out that the kids who were in regular classes were not being able to go to college, it was because they weren't being exposed to the information that the AP kids classes were. So luckily, I was able to go to college. That is because of Cynthia Woods, my mama. She was not playing. She came in the room one day and threw a couple of college applications on my bed and said, fill that one out, fill that one out, fill that one out. And next thing I know, I was on the airplane to Louisiana. I went to Xavier University of Louisiana. Now, fortunately, Xavier was familiar with this. Xavier understood that a majority of African American boys are not in the college prep classes. So the requirements for GPA, the requirements for SAT were lower for African American boys coming in. Still, with the lower requirements at Xavier University, there was a 1 to 15 ratio of men to women, of boys to girls, 1 to 15. So that means in a class, and we had small classes. Some classes were like 6, 7 people, but in a class of 15 students, I was the only boy. I didn't have a problem with that at all when I was in college. I was totally okay with that. Too okay with it. But to have that lack of representation within even historically Black colleges, there's something wrong. There was something truly wrong with not finding representation in the classes where kids are getting the support to go to college, and not finding enough representation in classes where it's specifically for African Americans to go to college. And my story wasn't unique at all. There's thousands and hundreds of thousands of stories of students who just did not find themselves in the right place. It wasn't based on their intelligence, it wasn't based on their knowledge. It was based on the systems that were put into place and the lack of representation. So what is the representation that we're looking for? We are looking for a sense of equity. All right. Now, when we talk about equity, it's not just about race. Now, we know in this country, race is a major issue, and especially in the education system. African American, especially African American boys, are 15% in some districts of the suspension, 75% of the suspension and behavior issues, but only 6 to 7% of the population are even lower. So we know Black and brown boys are being disciplined more. Black and brown boys are not being represented in higher education and in college preparatory courses. We know that. But then we also have to look at the gender. We have to look at social economic status. We have to look at ability status, ableism, language status, status on were they born here, were they not born here. So when we're looking at equity, we want to look at that whole picture of what makes an equitable education system. And we're going to keep talking about equity across that broad range. And then we're also going to keep talking about why equity is not currently in the systems that we teach our children in today. All right. So really quickly, the most devastating problem of our day, first in our school system and society as a whole, the growing towering inequity of performance that is endemic in our public school system. We know this. Everyone on this call knows this. On the Zoom, there's a problem when you constantly have Black and brown at the bottom of the good list and at the top of the bad list. So we know there's a problem. And this is nothing new. Are you all familiar? You just nod. Give me a one in the chat, please, actually, if you are familiar with Menendez versus Westminster. Okay. Drop a 2 in the chat if you have no idea what Menendez versus Westminster is. Okay, I'm getting 2s. I'm getting 2s. Okay. Well, as they say, I'm going to learn you. Menendez versus Westminster was a federal court case that challenged remedial schools in Orange County, California, in its ruling that United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, in a basic decision that held that a lot Mexican Americans who did not speak English were not considered remedial. So it basically was saying, so back in the day, and even in Orange County, this is in 1947, they had segregated schools. If you did not speak English, they put you in segregated schools. Now, Menendez, he was a man who worked for another man, and the man wanted Menendez to move into the house because he was going out of state or something like that. So he wanted to move in the house. They moved in, it was all great. But Menendez's children wanted to go to school in the area. The schools wasn't having it. They did not want a Mexican family going into their schools. And they had to take the court all the way up to federal appeals. Then finally, the Court of Federal Appeals said, okay, this is segregation. We understand, but Mexican schools was to have a separate Mexican school was unconstitutional by law. Now, this is 1947, and this is California. A lot of times when we think about segregation in education, we think about board versus education, Brown versus the Board of Education, and Plessy Ferguson. Well, this happened right here in California with Mexican Americans as well. And the legacy of racism, the legacy of white supremacy, it's still embedded into our school systems. So when we talk about equity, we have to have these uncomfortable conversations and really look at the inequities. And this is where it gets tough, but we have to move forward. So Menendez versus Westminster, it is an interesting case. If you are a teacher, I think it's interesting to bring it up. If you are just working with kids, it's an interesting case to bring up to really talk about justice and what it looks like in education here in California. It's a big thing. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. I'm going to just leave that quote there. If you feel a certain way about it, or if you don't feel any way about it, hey, if you want to drop something in the chat about it, okay. But I'm just going to leave that quote there. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. And our system has been operating in a certain way for a long time, even back in 1947. All right. The inevitable assumption. When we are talking about working with equity and working towards equity, we have to look at the inevitable assumption that some kids are just not going to perform academically. We have this group of kids, and they're just not going to perform academically, or they're just going to be the bad kids. We have to look at those assumptions that adults in the systems come into our education systems with. And that same assumption is a part of normalizing failure. It's okay to fail if you belong to this economic group. It's okay to fail if you're in this gender group. It's okay to fail if you're a foster kid. A lot of our leaders within our education system take these on. And these are real issues within the system that we want. All right. And we're talking about tracking. I spoke a little bit about tracking earlier, but I have another story on tracking that really, really shook me. It was a young man. His name was G. So G loved history. G loved history. But in this school, most of the students were Latino and most of them were lower economic. And most of the students there were just trying to learn English and get through the school system. But G knew English and he loved history. Every year he would talk to his counselor and his counselor would just help him to get to the next year. His counselor would just pass him through. Hey, we just got to make sure you pass through. Hopefully you graduate. Hopefully you make it happen. And G never brought up his passion for history because he never felt it was appropriate, proper place to bring it up because nobody ever asked him about it. Nobody ever asked him about how he was sparked by listen to the different things in history. It was just, hey, turn your work in, get a good grade. So G finally made it all the way to high school. And in high school, G went over his academics and his grades and stuff with his counselor, and he found out that he wasn't even eligible to go to college. He was only eligible to graduate high school, and that he would have to go to summer school. He'd have to take extra classes to be eligible to college. So let alone did he have time to take on some extra history classes or even further his knowledge in history. G was like, man, what's the point? So G, in his passion for history and his just knowledge that he wanted, he decided to just drop out and go to work. Hey, I could graduate, but nobody even really cares about me graduating. And what does even history have to do with me just going out and doing whatever? Now, getting the job, doing whatever he had to do, G, he had to do it. But if someone just would have pulled G to the side and said, hey, we want you to focus not just on graduating high school, but on going to college and nurturing. And in the tracking system, it started out with G in the third grade. In the third grade, they placed G into this program that was behind. That was, okay, you're an English learner, so we're going to put you in this program. And from elementary all the way into high school, we're going to just only track you that you're keeping up with the track to be able to graduate. We're not even thinking about going to college. So there was no intervention, there was no support, there was no counseling around doing anything except just graduating. And at the end, G said, hey, I'm not even going to graduate. It's not even worth it. So we have to look at tracking and how it impacts our students. And a lot of the tracking is based on biases. What do we believe our students are capable of and not capable of? How do we see the difference in a student between an African American male and a white female? What are the biases that come up? And then we can talk about change aversion. Why are some people averse to changing their ideas about how we see students? Well, this is how it was in my day. I've been working here for 20 years. I've been doing this for so long. This is just how these kids are. Well, here's some data that says these kids are this way for this certain reason. Okay, I've seen it before. I've done it before. And then we have to look at interest versus positions. I am interested in making sure that these kids exceed, but that could cost me my position on the school board. That could cost me my position to be able to elevate within the academics. I'm trying to be a principal. And if I bring up this issue, that could cost me it's real. Or as a social worker or as a mentor, let me just keep these kids going through. I'm talking about the system and all, not just the education system, but in the education system, we're talking about the educational glass ceiling, where we have that mentality, that understanding that this is the level that this kid can reach. That's it. And we're not going to look at anything else that promotes him even beyond that. The glass ceiling that is invisible, but it's there. And we know it and we feel it when we're working with youth. Let's just get them off probation. Let's just get them to stop smoking weed. Let's just make sure them and their baby have food and do that. No, I'm all about meeting people where they are. But after we get them stable, let's break through those glass ceilings of our ideas and biases and take them to the levels that they can achieve if only they have the support. And then I put poor leadership because I put poor as in just lacking knowledge, lacking the mindset to address these different issues we just talked about, the assumptions, the normalizations, the biases, the aversions, and the interest. So when we don't have leaders who are really and truly invested into making sure that our students are exceeding, every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. So we want to look at that and how we can make an impact on that through social emotional learning. All right, I'm just going to go through these here. It's been designed to create the education gap. Yep. Yeah, education gap. Equity action includes. So we know what we're going up against. And we know this has been a struggle for a long time. We know what we're going up against. And it has many different forms and takes on many different ways. Equity action includes. So when we're talking about actual action, we're talking about actual steps that we have to take. In COVID, we saw education drastically become transformed basically overnight. But for education to be reformed, education to be really just turned into a whole another thing that can really be equitable for all, it's going to take some steps, it's going to take some structure, and it's going to take work on all parties. So when we're talking about working for equity, we're talking about education action that includes steps to change external structures. We're going to get into some of those external structures and systems. They also can be internal actions that shape the dispositional characteristics of equity leaders. All right, so we're talking about those external systems that, the school boards, what are they approving, what are they not approving? We're talking about funds. What are we trying to pour funds into? And then we're talking about those internal things that we just went into. How do you feel about having these kind of kids in your school? Yes, these kind of kids. And then where do you feel they fit into your whole school environment? There was a story of a rezoning in the school where there was literally two sides of the track. On one side of the track was the lower economic, at risk, more disadvantaged. And then on another side, there was a more affluent students. The school district was split right in the middle, but things happened and money moved and there was a rezoning. And so now the kids from the other side of the track were coming to the other side of the track. And the teachers didn't know what to do. The principal didn't really know what to do. He said, all right, well, I want you teachers to come up with a plan to make sure this works. He comes back and he checks out his campus and he notices that all the kids from one side of the track were in a program in the little, what do they call it? The little cubbies, the little, those temporary classrooms that I spent most of my high school career in. They were all in there and they were in a program that was just trying to get them caught up. They were just trying to get them adapted. And okay, that's cool. We want them to get caught up and adapted. But they weren't being integrated into the current school system. They weren't able to receive any of the privileges of the current school system and of the programming. It was, hey, we're just going to put you over here to the side because we don't want the other parents to get mad that you're here now. I don't want my kids mixing with them. We don't want the educators feeling like I have to step away from what I learned over here to be able to teach them way back here. So we want to find ways to bring students in as much as we can to help them not only catch up, but to exceed. And we know how resilient students are. So we want to do that in a structured way that provides support for the social and emotional learning as well. And we're going to talk more about that, what that looks like and what that entails. All right. Equitable leaders. So this same principal, he noticed he did something wrong. He noticed he did not equip his staff with the tools that they needed to make equitable decisions. He knows that he put a lot of pressure on the staff. Staff was being pressured by parents. Staff were being pressured by community members. He noticed that he wasn't fixed on creating an equitable solution for his school. He was just trying to get a solution. And that happens a lot. Equitable leaders in general in schools face a lot of pressure. And to try to create a sense of equity where everyone is able to access the resources and benefit from the education is something that they need to establish a true north in their own equitable decision making. So when we talk about true north, it's that commitment. It's the commitment and the compassion beyond maybe what the budget says, beyond maybe what the business leaders say or these people say. But equity true north is a fixed ideal that educational leaders rely on to inform their daily practice in a way that ensures that every student has the opportunity to access the best schooling possible. Equity leaders must have the will to disrupt the status quo. So this principal, he looked at his campus and he had to take a true sense of his equity and his true north within his equity, his northern star, his sense of rightness, his compass on equity. And he said, all right, the teachers are happy because the kids are separating over here. The parents are happy because the kids aren't mixing. But are the kids truly getting the best possible schooling that they can have? And the answer was no. So he had to step up. He had to step back in and say, thank you guys for putting this program together, but we're going to have to tear it all apart and restructure it in a more equitable way. How are we going to do that? I don't know, but we're going to make it happen. And when we do this, we're going to have to do it as a team. Oh, wow, we did this work. This is the right way. The parents are happy. The emotions came up. When we're talking about equity, we're talking about a lot of conflict and a lot of tension. We're going against ideas. We're going against beliefs. We're going against what people feel like has been working in the past to move to the new status quo of equitable for all. When we're talking about equitable leadership, we need to equip our leaders with tools to manage on the mental, the emotional, and the social level. And what does that look like, even as we talk about it? What does that even look like? Talking about creating an equitable impact. So leadership needs to have grace. It really needs to have grace. Grace and humility for, hey, I came into this situation. I understand that you've been working here for this long. I understand this is how the system has been, but now it's time to move on. Leadership, grace is in this context, grace refers to the gift of support a leader offers someone that deserves it or not. I'm sorry, the T is off. So, like I said, we as equitable leaders, which you all are because you came here, sometimes you have to go uphill. And some of your coworkers may not have the same equitable true north as you. But being able to establish a sense of grace for the system and for the people to make sure the kids come first. Ooh, is a huge task. So we're going to get some tools to see how we can do that. And prioritize the equity mission above personal comfort and find strength and humility. Coca-Cola has a mission. And if you ever look at Coca-Cola's mission, it's pretty amazing too. They want to help destroy thirst and thirst for passion. It's a beautiful mission statement, Coca-Cola. I'm like, oh, I thought I just wanted a Sprite, but y'all really trying to change my life. Okay. But being able to commit to that mission of equity is a huge thing. And then, we also have our missions that we go over in the beginning of the school year that we forget about because this happened or that happened. But to be able to have that established mission and to stick to it despite the discomforts that are on their way is a huge part of what leadership looks like and how we can create an impact. Equitable leaders are guided by a moral imperative to ensure that every child receives the premium education that only some currently experience. They expose systemic inequities, not easily visible, but very harmful to vulnerable students. It's not okay that just some of the kids get an equitable education. It's not okay that just some of the youth get an opportunity to excel. It is not okay that only the ones who have had these opportunities, only the ones who show up in this body are supposed to exceed and excel. It's not okay. And I think we lose that at times because we want to just get through the day. We want to just make sure we can deal with whatever we deal with. Getting the superintendent, the supervisor, the whoever off my back so I can just make it happen. And this is not a webinar on judgment or criticism. This is not a webinar saying that the people who had to do what they had to do were bad or wrong. This is a webinar to help provide some tools so we can stay committed to our equity mission. All right. Okay. So I want to pause here and invite questions and give you guys some time to sip some water. And you can unmute, or if you like to add into the chat, what is going on? What are you guys feeling? What's happening with you? Your thoughts, questions, anything? No? Okay. Everybody's good to go? All right. I shall continue. All right. Oh, we got one. Let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Kay. Social emotional learning. All right. So we've heard about social emotional learning, SEL. We've probably been in some webinar, Zoom. We've probably had someone come to your school, your job, and get you to breathe and get you to squeeze on the little squeezy things and tell you to take a bath and a walk. I love that. Someone probably was me too. I told you go walk and squeeze. Social emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships. All right, so within the structure of equity that we just talked about, it wasn't a lot of positive feelings in there for me when I was talking about how inequitable there is. So it's kind of one of those things where if you're in a structure, if you are in a system that constantly is sometimes is traumatic and constantly triggering you, then it's hard to really focus on how can you be well. We use the term PTSD often, but as we break down social emotional learning, we really focus on CTSD, current traumatic stress disorder. Now, PTSD and CPSD have a lot of different similarities, but when you are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, continue to experience the traumas, it's not about what happened last year. It's not about what happened back in the day. It's about this is happening now. And a lot of it looks like bullying on campuses or even bullying in the office. It looks like anxiety and depression and frustration. It looks like not being able to feel connected to your community. So when we're talking about social emotional learning, yes, we are dealing with the post-stress, the stresses that we've been through and how those symptoms show up in our daily lives. And then we're also talking about how can we deal with the current stresses that are going in our lives. PTSD was coined by a South African revolutionary, and he was a writer and a literary. And during the time in the social upheaval of South Africa, he was looking around and saying, post-traumatic stress is still going on right here. We got to do something about it. And in social emotional learning, that's our aim, to do something about it. So when we're talking about social emotional learning, it has to be equitable. As we talked about, it has to be at all levels of learning, all levels of income, language, race, gender, ability. We're talking about the development of the knowledge, behaviors, and perspectives of our babies, our children, needed to understand and manage emotions, get along with others, make responsible choices, and achieve one goals. I have a godson. You'll probably hear me talk about him a lot. I have a godson. Oh, man. And I really try to provide him with as many different lenses and opportunities as I can to instill within him the opportunity to succeed. So he comes a lot of times to me and is in a very reactionary mode. Man, I'm anxious, I'm scared, I'm this, I'm that. And then he starts yelling and everything like that. And I'm like, let's bring it down. Let's relax. You know, I'm not going to attack you or anything like that. So he comes from one system to another system, but he still brings those reactions towards me. He still brings that frustration and anger. And I have to remind him, like, hey, I'm not that person. This is who we are. And I have to bring it to him and meet him where he is. And it makes sense for it to be equitable. Equitable access to high quality education, including rigorous coursework and exceptional teachers, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, language, disability, background, or family income. So even me growing up, I grew up very middle class from Corona, California. Hey, anybody from Corona? Just me? All right. Corona, California. There was Corona, probably one of the most diverse places in the world. I feel like I knew everybody and everybody was connected. And it wasn't until after I graduated that I saw some of these inequitable things. I played football as well, as you can tell by the muscles. But me playing football definitely saved me a lot. Me playing football forced me to at least get the 2.0 so I can dress out. I remember some times when my coach pulled me to the side and was like, hey, man, are you going to make it with grades? And he would give me that little nudge to keep going. He would give me that support to keep going. I knew there was someone who I couldn't hide my report card from who cared about my grades. If I made it home in time and caught the mail, this was back in the day when they had report cards in the mail. I don't know how kids do it now. I was able to catch them and do it. So I had somebody who was supporting me, and I had someone who cared about me besides my parents. My parents cared about me and my grades, but I can hide from them. So we want to promote conditions to enable all children to reach their full potential. That word potential has almost haunted me for years because a lot of times kids don't see their potential when they're in it. And when we create an equitable education, it's an opportunity for them to all be able to fulfill their potential and working through the systems. So we have to understand the emotional, the mental, the different barriers that are there. And once again, when we're talking about equity, we're talking about creating a structure to really transform the system. All right, creating balance. We have to address the opportunity gap. Someone said that earlier in the chat about the opportunity gap. We have to ensure representation. But I want to talk about the opportunity gap real quick. We've been talking about the opportunity gap for a very long time, and there's a lot of resources and data about why the opportunity gap exists. But how can we close the gap is what we are here today to talk about. How can we close that gap? When we're looking at the gap, it's not just based on one thing, and we know it is about many different factors within the gap. But today we're focusing on how we can close the gap on the adult side, as well as the student side. And I want to ensure representation. When we're talking about ensuring representation, that goes back to my story of not seeing myself in the AP classes, not seeing myself in the college preparatory classes. I'm only seeing most of me and what other folks that look like me on the football field, in the PE, and the basketball, and figuring out how we can bring representation in. We got some tools that we want to do with that. And we want it to be student and adult led. Like I talked about with my man G, if he had the opportunity to really talk about his passion for history and really express his desire to learn about Abraham Lincoln and whoever else, then he could have led himself towards equitable education. All right. And then healing informed. Yes, we are currently in traumatic experiences, and we want to also be able to heal from the experiences that we have came from. The educational system can be very traumatic. You're constantly being tested, you're constantly critiqued, you're constantly being judged, you're socially trying to find your way. So we want to create healing practices, and that's what we're working in the SEL. And this was really powerful. Adult expectations manifest in students. So when we're looking at students, they say your focus, where your energy goes, your focus goes. So if you expect little G, if you expect me to not perform just because of what I look like, or even what I did before in the previous years, how much focus and attention are you really going to pour into me? Unless you have that equitable lens where you're putting focus into all the students, understanding, hey, you might need a little bit more focus and attention because of how you're showing up now. So adult expectations manifest in students. And I definitely had some adults expect more of me, and I had to live up to those expectations. All right. So we're going to start to get into some of the strategies for prioritizing SEL within equity. All right. One of the biggest strategies we have to focus on is data. I have someone that always says data because they're not sure if it's data, is it data? Daddy, which one? Data, whatever one you choose, is imperative. And when we're talking about data and data, we have to use it as a tool to make informed decisions about our equity. When we looked at the principal, once again, who had his staff kind of set up the kids from both sides of the track in different places, the data from the school showed and was representative of, okay, these students are not performing well. These students come from impoverished areas, so we need to put them in a certain place. But when we dive deeper into the data, we understand, wow, they weren't receiving the resources that they needed. They weren't receiving the focus and attention that we needed. So we want to look at how data can inform where our resources go. Our financial resources are precious within education. We know that. But the human resources are even more focused. Are we putting the teachers who are new? Are we putting the teachers who are more focused on behavior? Are we putting the teachers who are more focused on, I got two more summers and I'm out of here, and working on the kids that need some focus? So where are we putting our human resources, and where are we putting our resources of parents, our resources of community members, our resources of mentors coming in? Where are we putting those resources? In my time working in schools, some schools will bring me in to work with the AP students. Hey, they need a little bit of meditation or some yoga to help them deal with the stress of taking their advanced placement test. All right, cool. And some schools will bring me in only to work with the students who have some behavioral issues. I don't know what to do with these kids. Just do some yoga or something to shut them up and shut them down. Okay, how are we allocating our resources? And understand both of them are needs, but where are we allocating the resources so it's equitable? And what are the goals for these students? What are the goals for the schools? Many times, some of the schools that I work with have been continuation schools, and it was just, hey, we got to do something about our attendance rate. The kids are not coming to school. We just need you to do something there. We just need you to do something about they smoking weed, they're doing drugs. Just do something to help them. But they had goals. They had some strong goals that we were able to work with, and we could put a plan and equitable strategy around it. And then that's how we include the social emotional learning piece into it. What kind of data are we looking for to implement the social emotional strategies? Are we going to look at the academics, and then are we going to look at, okay, these are the students who come from lower economics, so they have stress in the home. So what kind of what kind of strategies can we put into place to make sure they're calm and relaxed, to make sure they have some breakfast, to make sure they are getting the proper exercise that they need, and then once again, looking at the resources, maybe we can have, maybe we can teach the parents some yoga classes, so then they can come in every once in a while and teach some breathing and some stretching exercises. Maybe we can pull together the financial resources, and 2 or 3 schools have one yoga teacher if we can't afford a whole yoga program or emotional wellness program. And what are our goals? How are we going to reach our goal of getting the kids to stop doing drugs? We know that telling them, hey, don't do drugs and walking in on the bathroom is not going to help. So let's listen to them. Let's see, what are they doing the drugs for? Well, I'm stressed out and I'm angry, and all the people in my community are doing drugs, so I'm doing it. All right, so let's give you some alternatives. Let's make it something that you can do. Let's meet you where you are and create some opportunities for you to grow using these social emotional learning strategies. And we have more, we're going to get deeper into them as we go through it, but I just want you to start looking at strategy as a way to implement social emotional learning through the structure of reforming our current systems. All right. And one of the biggest things I hear is time. I don't have time for that. You want me to do what? No, we have to do this test and that test, and we got to get them over here to this place, and we got doctor's appointments and this and that. One of the biggest things you can do is master your master calendar. And schools and education systems have that. And I'm saying it like it's easy because, oh, yeah, it's easy. We just change this or change that. But once again, when you come back to that equity north, when you come back to that, this has to be done. Because within this system, we know the issues and the problems. So if we really want to achieve, we have to make this a priority. And we can look at it. What are we going to do daily? What are the small things that we can do daily? Can we have a mindful minute each day? Can we have a stretch break each day? Can we have just somebody lead the breath, the national breath anthem? So as we're doing our announcements over the AP, the intercom thing, let's all take a breath before we get into the national anthem. What is your wellness tip for this week? How many of you were able to sit down and meditate this week? We can even log meditation hours. Drop a 1 in the chat if you ever have counted your steps, and then you get to the end of your count steps at the week and you're like, oh yay, I made it. Being able to just do those things on a weekly basis, looking at your master calendar and breaking down the different tools that you can incorporate into it. Monthly. Cool. We got some monthly things that we can do. Can we bring in someone who can lead a meditation, a yoga class monthly? Can we have a professional development monthly for the teachers? Can we have a workshop, a class to focus on that monthly? What are we doing at least once a month to make sure we focus on our social emotional learning? How can we incorporate that into what we are doing on a monthly basis? Okay, we know Valentine's coming up, Black History Month coming up. What is that? The Green Holiday. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. How can we make it St. Patrick's and wellness? All right, when you get a green shirt, you don't get pinched. You get a COVID hug or something like that. We can't do hugs and stuff no more. But making sure we incorporate all the stuff that we're already doing with some wellness. And we're going to give you some more tips and tools on how you can do that as we go through it. But if we look at equity as a priority, we are going to find some places to bring in social emotional learning and vice versa. If we think of it as a priority, we're going to bring it in, and we bring it in across the board of what students deserve. What is more of the attitude of what is it that we can bring to all students? How can we impact all the students with what we're doing? Everything changed about how she spent her time once she became comfortable assuming something could be improved every day. So when we look at the work that we're doing, sometimes it is, all right, it's time to do reports. Let's get some social emotional learning in. Let's reach into these kids and make sure they have this, and reach out to these kids and make sure they have that. And that's when we lose the equity part of it. When we don't incorporate it into our time in general, we lose the equity part because we run out of time. I was fortunate to teach yoga sometimes at whole schools. So I'll be there one day, teach a whole school. And they made it important for me to spend a certain amount of time in the class and working into their schedule. But I was able to do it, teach yoga to kids throughout the whole day. And we mixed and matched it where I was able to teach some in the, what is it called? The auditorium. And some I would go into their classes. We do less time with the younger kids and more time with the older kids. If we look at the ways we want to create equity, we will find ways to implement social emotional learning. And then we got to talk about staff. All right. We got to talk about how whenever you bring up something new, period, you can hear the eyes rolling. Oh man, here we go. Another something. Here go another theory. And they're going to tell us to do this for a couple of months. Then it's going to fall off. You guys remember when we did this, and you remember that? So we got to reframe it as an opportunity to grow, not just as another challenge. You want me to do this? I'm already swamped in doing this. I'm already doing that. Let's look at it as a challenge. Once again, talking about those, counting our steps, counting our calories, counting, the times that we go get a pedicure or manicure or something like that, get our hair done, whatever that we also usually assume stress relief and social emotional learning is. We can make it a challenge. How many of you were able to incorporate it into your class and your class? And how many kids did you think weren't going to do it, but they ended up doing it? So really motivating and getting our staff to look at it as a challenge. As an opportunity rather than a challenge. Now, we all love challenges, but it has to be a challenge that we see opportunity. So we've all seen the TikTok challenges where you've done the dance or something like that. I probably, some of you look like you probably went viral a couple times, but at the end of that challenge is an opportunity. I have the opportunity to be recognized. I have the opportunity to get likes. I have the opportunity to get a contract with somebody and make millions by selling random crap on the internet. If you don't have that opportunity, it just becomes another challenge that people are not interested in. And when we're talking about growing a structure, we're talking about growing methodically. It's not, hey, today's Tuesday. Well, on Wednesday, we're going to implement all these in and good luck. How can we grow methodically? How can we think about the impact that has happened, especially over the last year, and really take all that into account? We can use the data. We can use the resources. We can use the strategy to implement these things in methodically over time with a certain method, and even being able to use the methods that we tried them before and test them again and go back at them again. Because when we grow methodically, we get a chance to an opportunity to shine a light on relatable models. Hey, down the street at Parkview Elementary, they're doing this. It's working for them. Let's get it. Let's do it. Let's find out how they're doing it. Let's take some pieces from them and make sure it works for us and add our own little special twist into it and make it work. And then we could even do a meeting with them and we can go to their personal development, professional development and relaxation. We can have lunch over there with them or something to really create that community to start using, implementing models in here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to do anything astronomically new, and it doesn't have to be something, that just blows the world up with amazement. It just has to work. It just has to work, and keep working on it. And when we're talking about kids, community, of course, we have to talk about parents as well. What is your part in this? Did I play a role in the difficulty? Could I have done anything different to improve the outcome? Is there anything I can do now to improve the situation? What changes do I need to make in my behavior and practices? Ooh, don't we wish parents sounded like this? What could I do to change? What is my role? What am I doing? How can I be of assistance, of support, of help? Instead of, you need to take care of my kids and do this and do that. So when we're talking about SEL and this equitable model, this is really getting into the parts of understanding emotions and communicating and building relationships. How can we get our parents to this point? How can we build a system where parents are looking at their part within it? How can we include them? When we're talking about social emotional learning, some of the components are to be able to manage self and to manage relationships. Now, as teachers, as educators, as mentors, as leaders, it can be hard sometimes as we go into the community, as we deal with folks who has different home training than we have and different professional training. That's a whole nother PD right there. But to be able to create a system that makes parents ask this question is all about how we approach our own emotions and our own feelings and how we address our own mindset to be able to create a safe space for parents who already feel very disempowered by the education system. I'm giving my babies to you, and you're supposed to give them back to me educated, fed, nourished, well, and loved on. And then I just got to put some clothes on their back and feed them again and then bring them back to you. So we know we have some issues. We know we have a system that isn't always as supportive. And this, of course, this is not all parents. We do have those active parents. So we want to highlight those parents and bring them in and learn some things from them and engage them as much as possible. And once again, doing that with our social emotional learning skills that we have and we're going to incorporate. Parents love things that help them deal with stress. I've been doing a lot of online wellness classes for parents and doing some stress relief stuff and some yoga stuff for parents. And they love it. And they need some time for themselves. And they also need some time for them and their kids. And demographics do not determine destiny. So parents are coming from all different kinds of demographics. And these kids are coming from those same demographics. But of course, that doesn't determine their destiny. And they can be destined to be a great parent. They can be destined to be a great member of the community. Once again, it's just about pouring that attention and that focus into them to make it happen. All right. Now we're going to get into, I just want to show you guys another view of what's going on because I get tired of the same view sometimes. You guys say I have a bubblegum machine in there. You know, that's something that I always wanted as a kid. Cool. Let's reframe the mindset. We just reframed the video. Now we're going to reframe the mindset, putting ourselves in a different frame of mind. It's important. As we talked about, there's so many mental blocks and glass ceilings and barriers to creating an equitable system. We have these barriers that can block us from providing an equitable system. So we have to look at ways we can address those. And then when we find our true north, when we define our mission, when we talk about inequities, it's important that we always assume that there are inequities. And that's going to be annoying. That's going to bring conflict and tension. But for us to always assume there's going to be an inequity, I need to find out how to remedy, how to do something about it today. Making sure that we are constantly looking for inequities. How can I make sure that this student over here who are abled in a different way feel like they can go and interact and play with these students over here? Or this student who doesn't know the English language as much, why should that create a barrier for them to have fun and play and just feel good? And how can I make sure that these students over here see more representation of themselves in the places that they may want to be, but just haven't had experiences there? Always assuming that there are inequities there. We're like bloodhounds, sniffing out the inequities there. We're constantly looking forward. And it's so important that information is accessible. There was a study of a school where they wanted to find out why the AP students were just, making so much more strides in getting into college. And they wanted to increase the college attendance for all of their students. So then they started looking at the programs that they were doing. And they noticed, yes, all the AP students were in the same classes. They were all in the same programs for student leadership. But then they noticed that a lot of the information they received about college and scholarships and the classes that they need to take were all in one certain area of the school. They were all outside of their classrooms. So they didn't have to go far to get the information on hey, here's the next informational about getting FAFSA, or here's the next information about these resources. It was right outside their classrooms. It didn't make it to the bungalows. That's what it is. It didn't make it to the bungalows with the students who were struggling. It didn't. It may have not even been in two languages or three languages or whatever languages were spoken there. It may not have been by the bus where the students who had to take the bus, or by the cafeteria line where the students had to put in their code to get the free lunch. I So making sure that the information is accessible across the campus, and then of course accessible in the community. How are the parents picking it up? Are we emailing it? What if they don't have an email? Are we calling them? Are we sending out formal letters? Are we stuffing in their backpacks? It's work, but the work of creating an equitable environment in school for our kids is work that's going to pay off. I dearly wish I still had the opportunity to just put my little code in and get lunch from school. I love those little cookies and the beef jerky. That was great. It doesn't work like that nowadays. They want me to put my code and my card into the machine. In schools with complex demographics profiles, there's a high risk of inaccurately identifying inequitable outcomes. What does that look like? That looks like, hey, we have a percentage, 6% percentage of African American boys in our school, and well, we got our percentage of them who are being suspended down to 5%, 10%. So we're doing good. No. We have to look at that. We have to understand that a lot of high risk students can be kind of swept under the rug with the data and the demographics. So we want to really, once again, be bloodhounds on sniffing out the inequities. And when we have those resources and numbers to do so, it helps us to be able to do so. All right. Cool. I'm going to pause here once again and take some water. I'm thirsty. Questions, comments, concerns, things you want to get off your chest, stories that you have as an educator, as a parent, as a mentor. Yes, thank you, Kay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to start getting it going. Anything that you all are starting, any questions more on social emotional learning, or any questions on equity, any special things that you are all doing to include it into the work that you are doing. No? Okay. Anybody watching something cool on TV right now in the background? No? All right. Listen to some cool music. Okay. Nothing? Okay. Hey, Genevieve, how you doing?
Hi. um, well, you saw me a mute.
Yes.
Oh no, I just wanted to say like it's it's I appreciate you saying that, um look at challenge as an opportunity.
Mhm.
But I feel like I don't know, it's like we all know this, but it's like really when in school it just feels like it's not so like I feel like everyone is so full, like teachers feels like they're always so full on their plate. It's really hard for them to really feel that this is an opportunity, even though I'm not saying like I think it's great. I'm just thinking how can we make them feel that it's an opportunity when it's so full on their plate,
Mhm.
and one time I went to this uh advisory meeting, like in that school, like the teachers do a social emotional learning in the morning, and there's this one teacher, all of the discussions that he's supposed to facilitate in the SEL learning, he had the students basically message him privately. And I'm like, there's no way you can have a discussion if no one can see each other's response,
Right.
but that's the way he knows how to do this thing and get through his first period of class,
Mm.
and so sometimes I'm just thinking like, I don't know. I'm just sharing, you wanted like
Thank
some
you.
feedback, so I wanted to just be really, open and authentic about how I experience this. Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that helps a lot. And I've heard that before, and we're definitely thank you. That's perfect. That's perfect. What we're going to do next. But does anybody else have anything about that, especially feeling full and feeling like the things that they're doing are not really having the impact that they want. Anybody else want to share on that? Okay. All right, cool. Well, let me just make sure nothing in the chat. All right. Well, yes, you said it, Genevieve. And Genevieve, really quickly, could you tell me what county that you're in, or?
Oh, I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm not actually a teacher. I'm just a therapist intern,
Okay.
working at a school, at a high school right now.
Okay.
And yeah.
I understand. I was a therapist intern myself, so
Oh,
no.
wow. Then you really know. There's so many parts in school. Like, there's just so many, and I'm only now learning how, there's so many disconnect between different parties of people, and they have different priorities, different needs, and they also all have a personal life, like they're humans. And I just feel like it's easy to talk about, like, and it's also easy for us to say, like, oh, I can teach these kids how to social emotional, like how to regulate their emotions. But I feel like we as adults have a lot to do. Like you said it too, like, it's, if you can't do it for yourself, it's really hard for you to convince or invite the parents to want to do that, with you. So yeah, so I'm in Los Angeles, that's your question.
Thank you. No, it's really important. If anyone could, you can drop their chat or you can just say it. If anyone growing up had a parent that pulled them to the side or talked to them on a regular basis about managing their emotions and regulating their feelings and being able to create healthy relationships based on nobody, okay? What? But we have to teach these kids this? Yeah. So a big part of it is, as Genevieve just said, we are trying to, while already in the belly of the beast, sorry for the graphic, but we're trying to help students to understand something that we never understood. Now, I know we're doing it with the new math and everything, but teachers and parents are human beings. And we have all the stuff that we are dealing with. We have the situation that we are going through on a daily basis. And a lot of times we don't have the tools to deal with it. So when we're talking about SEL, social emotional learning, it has to be more than just a checklist of things. It has to be more than just a task list. It has to be functional, and it has to create an impact that the kids can feel. And it's something that has to be practiced on a regular basis. So we also have to attend the SEL needs of the teachers. Yep, they can't teach what they don't understand. It is true. And you said something that is spot on. Just reading in the chat. These are great. Thank y'all. Yep, it has to be more than just a checklist. So it has to be more than just a checklist. Now, everyone has their routine. They have a shower routine, they have a toothbrushing routine, they have a routine for cooking, they have a routine for watching TV and everything like that. It has a routine. And some of our routines create space for us, and some of our routines take up space. Like I said, I study Spanish on my little app on a daily basis because I want to fill my head with Spanish. So that takes up some space. It takes up some memory, some energy, and some focus. I feel like I lose all my SEL when I don't get the Spanish words right. But then we also have some space creating practices. And when we create space within ourselves, it gives us the opportunity to start to reimagine and change our mindset. I talked a lot about mindset in the beginning because it is. A lot of us were raised on the mindset of what it looks like to be a good student. And what it looked like to be a good student had nothing to do with what it felt like to be a human being. So as we start to get pushed in the direction of becoming more human, because that's what everybody says feels good and that's what everybody says works, we have to find some tools to do that. So before we go into the next section, we are going to create some space, and we are going to sit with all this icky stuff that we just acknowledged about equity and about lack of equity and about how we're trying to fit the round peg of SEL into the square peg of the system that we've all have come up in. So we're going to come into a meditation. All right. This is going to be a meditation for you to create space. For you to create space. So I want you to sit up nice and tall. It's your favorite chair. And if it is not your favorite chair, allow it to be your favorite chair. And as we sit up nice and tall, we're going to find our shoulders relaxed and our feet firmly grounded onto the earth. Below the floor, below the concrete, down into the earth, feeling connected, feeling rooted, feeling supported. Now, when we talk about meditation, we don't have to be in the Himalayan mountains. We don't have to be in some kind of robe or anything like that. We're just meditating on a daily basis by sending our focus to a place where we can create space, where we can let go some of the thoughts. We can tune into the emotions that make us feel good and make us feel present. And we're going to do that today. So I want you to imagine yourself in your optimum situation. We've already been there, so it's not going to be hard to bring this back. You've been there when you helped a student. You've been there when you created an opportunity for a student. You've been there when you've seen the potential of a student, a child, your child, and you've seen that flower bloom and grow. It was something that you offered to the child. It was something that you had that ignited something that was already in them. And you saw the beauty that that spark turned into. So as we stay with that space of helping the youth and helping ourselves, we're going to take some deep breath. I want you to focus on the breath as you continue to create space within your mind and space within your heart. A lot of us have our hearts protected because we have seen so many kids fail or seen so many systems fail our kids. We don't want to get hurt anymore. We don't want to go there. We don't want to be disappointed. We're just trying to make it through what we got to go through. And I don't blame you. Once again, teachers, educators, parents are human beings, and we feel hurt. So we're going to take some deep breaths to breathe into the expansion of our heart, to breathe into an expansion of our mind, to create space for more opportunities to heal and transform the systems that don't provide the equity we need. Letting the shoulders relax, letting the face be soft, and let the breath be calming and soothing. Let's just gently breathe in and out of our nose, relaxing the lower back, relaxing the legs, finding your breath once again. Letting go of the stress in the neck and the chest. Letting go of the stress anywhere it is. Releasing the tension and coming back to that space where you create space. Good. Let's just take a few more deep breaths here, breathing in and breathing out. Deep breath in. Long, slow breath out. One more deep breath in. And relax and release. Slowly coming back into your current space. I want you to feel any sense of newness, any sense of recharge, any sense of refocusing back on your mission, on what you agreed to when you entered the lives of children, and what you agreed to when you decided you wanted better for yourself. Slowly coming back in and just, if you need to stretch, if you need to grunt and turn and twist or whatever, come into that space. And just in the chat, if you could just drop whatever feeling you have right now in the chat, whatever you experienced after that, and what you're currently experiencing, just what's going on with you. Because when we're talking about creating the new mindset, when we're talking about transformation, not just change, not just changing from one administrator to another, not just changing from one new buzzword to the next, but actually transforming ourselves. It starts with transforming our own minds. our own feelings, looking at the world with different vision, different eyes. So it starts from the inside, creating a practice of envisioning, creating a practice of releasing, creating a practice of healing. And I'm excited to get into that even more. So thank y'all so much for joining me in that meditation. We are going to continue on the webinar. We still have some more things we want to get through. I want to actually give you some tangibles on how you can bring these into what you do on a daily basis. Yes, you can check out some meditation videos. Yes, you can pause. Yes, you can breathe. But we want to say what that looks like in the most equitable way. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. Cool. Now, whenever you have to go, you can do that. Please, we're going to make the recording available with all of the different exercises and techniques and tools, and just really being real on how we can implement into our programming. Cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Please. We'll have a recording and stuff available. We'll send you all the information and stuff available. Wow, it's 6:53 already. Anytime you need to leave, please do so. This is just a rich topic we're going to go into. And the more that you guys talk about, the more we're going to add on to this and really build it out so we can create even more. Ooh, 9:53. Okay, sorry about that, Trish. Please get some rest. That's a part of being well. So yeah, you guys are on the list. We'll send you the link where you can check out the full course where we dive into everything. I'm sorry we didn't get to the meaty parts. I'm sorry about that. We should have made it a lot more. Bless you. Thank you. All right, let's jump in. So we're going to talk about a framework of incorporating social emotional learning into equity. And we're going to do that through freedom. We're feel free, and we're all about freedom here. Find out what's happening. All right, F, we're going to break it down. Now, I really had to rack my brain around creating this little acronym thing. F, find out what's happening. Talking about collecting the data. What are you already doing right now to implement social emotional learning? And how can we make improvements on that? So we want to collect that data first. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'll send you guys access and stuff to this to be able to access this. Thank you so much. Relevancy and rapport. So we want to create relevancy and rapport with both students and staff. So we want to jump in. All right. And then we want to make sure we are engaging students. And then we want to make sure, of course, we are empowering students and kids. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, you guys. Sorry about the time thing. I should have added that this was going to be a little bit longer. I apologize. I'm so sorry. The more I got into it, the more I was like, oh, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this. So we'll send you some more information. Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate you. Folks got to get going. I understand. Cool. Thank you so much. So find out what's happening. That's what the F is talking about. Then we're talking about relevancy and rapport. It has to mean something. When they talk about it in church, they talk about how the pastor is on your street. It has to come to your neighborhood. The issue has to come to your doorstep. So we want to look at the issues that the students, the staff, and the parents are really dealing with and provide some support there for them. And then we want to talk about engaging. How can we just, instead of just, okay, yeah, you know, this is the issue that you have. Now we want to engage you in it. We want to make sure that you have some tools to jump in and get the information that you need. And then we want to empower them. So now that you have the tools, now that you're engaged, you're all in there. Now we want to make sure you become leaders with it and help to transform within. And then we're talking about developing. continue to develop their practice and continue to help them grow. And then we talk about observing. So when we're talking about observing, that's when we come in collecting the data once again, what's happening, what's not happening. And as we get those numbers and data, we want to make sure we can use that to continue to create more leaders. Hey, this is what worked. This is what didn't work. Let's make sure we have more leaders making things happen. So I want to inform you guys all now. We still have probably about 20 more slides left. So if you got to go, you got to go. We'll send you the link and information to check out the course and everything that we're doing. If you got to go, you got to go. I'm just going to continue to stay on. Once again, I'm sorry about the time. We got in there, we got deep. But you guys are on the mailing list and we'll send you this opportunity. We'll send you this, the information and stuff, how you can access all this information. So thank you. Once again, I'm sorry about that, but we're going to keep going. All right. So freedom is the model. Freedom is the model. Find out. What does finding out looks like? According to a recent report by CASEL is the California Social Emotional Learning Organization, 84% of state and education representatives said that SEL increased in importance in response to COVID. All right, so it's kind of like you get it now. After COVID happened and we've seen how disparities increased within students and how emotional and social learning was huge and imperative for youth to just be able to cope and figure out what was going on in their lives. The most devastating problem of our day facing our school system and society as a whole, the growing and towering inequity of performances that is endemic to our public school system. So when we talk about finding out, the first F in the freedom model, we are working on collecting data. We're working on equity discovery studies. All right. So when we looking into the data, we want to figure out what can we pull out that's going to be beneficial, that's going to be powerful, that's really going to close that inequity gap. Got to close that gap. And as we look at that, we know we're going to have to challenge the status quo. What are we going to have to say? I know we've been doing this for years, but we can't do it like that anymore. So this is where the tension comes in. This is where your meditation practice comes in, because you're going to be dealing with the fight. You're fighting against the old and fighting against the new. This is where you meditate to come back to your true sense of identity within equity. This is where you meditate to reset and re-envision your mind. This is where you meditate to recollect yourself after the battles that you're going to go through for equity. And the numbers help us to find those and look at those and then to be able to move forward. We got numbers, we can do some things. Collecting the data, all right, unmasking underlying inequities that could perpetuate historical underachievement. It's going to be tough to look at, but we got to look at it to heal. What you don't reveal, you do not heal. What are the inequities in gender, race, ability, language, social, and economic status? So a huge part is collecting the data. Now, there has been some incidents where we collect only the good data. Oh yeah, we got 5 kids over here that are doing good in the school system, but the rest of them are not. So let's just focus on those 5. No, let's look at the whole picture and collect the data and do what is equitable for the kids that we are loving on. Collecting data is one of the beginning parts of starting that journey towards greater equity and closing the gap, and collecting the right data. And as we collect that right data, the informative data, we have to dig into it to look for inequities. Where are the inequities in this data? Not just, hey, cool, we have this school doing good, we have that school. Where are the inequities? In schools with complex demographic profiles, there's a high risk of inaccurately identifying inequitable outcomes. So I grew up in a complex demographic, and they say complex because it's just a diverse demographic. You have some folks with higher economic means, and you have some folks with less. We have to study the data to figure out where the inequities are. Because why are some students who are coming from higher social and economics still performing lower? What's going on here? Use data to disrupt inequitable systems. Data is a tool. When we come forth with data and say, these kids who are from lower social and economic status are still performing higher than the kids who are from higher economic status, but are from this gender or from this ethnicity, there's a problem here. We need to figure it out. And we need to use this data as a tool to do so. Let's discover where the inequities are. And, and that's when we get to implement those social emotional learning skills. Let's take a step back. Let's breathe. Let's figure out where the inequities are. And then let's create some structures around those that can help us to challenge that status quo. All right, when we're looking at the status quo, we're talking about the wallpaper effect a lot of times, where you just putting wallpaper over a wall that is mildewed, rotten, the pipes are broken down, the windows are broken. Let's just put a layer of wallpaper on it to cover it up. Decorations without addressing core issues takes human and financial resources away from real equity. Hey, there's a new program that they say it's going to get kids to sit down and relax. Here's $1,000. Let's get the program going. And then we're going to need a couple of teachers to monitor the program to make it work. Did we do any studies or did we collect any data if the program is going to be beneficial for us? Do we know what our problems here on this campus? Do we know what our problems here are as a parent organization, as a mentor organization, as a therapist? Do we really know what our problems are? Or are we just saying, hey, this is something that could work and we're going to do it? And this is what everyone else is doing it, so let's do it. And if it doesn't work, hey, that's just the way it is. So we have to challenge the status quo with the data. And once again, the fight that we are in, it's going to require us to be able to need to take care of ourselves. And then also checking in with your own data. How much sleep are you getting? How much water are you drinking? How much exercise? How much of the freedom within yourself are you bringing to the table for social economic learning and creating equity within it? And how can we make that data equitable across the board? How can we bring it in and create relationships with other teachers that are trying to do things for themselves and teachers and therapists that are trying to do things for themselves? So as we get the data on ourselves and as we get the data on our schools and organizations that we work with, we're going to use that to challenge the status quo. I got some data before on my life that I had low iron and I needed to take more iron in. I started eating beets. I started taking iron pills. But honestly, I went and got another test and I found out that my iron was okay. It was a little bit lower than most white Americans, but it was right on par for African Americans. So if I didn't go through the data and figure out that I was actually at a good spot for my iron, I would have still been operating from a spot that I was deficient. But it's just my iron needs were less for me as African American than other Americans or other folks of different ethnicities. I had to I had to get the research, I had to get the numbers to find that out, and then challenge the status quo and say, no, it's not abnormal for my iron to be like that. This is just what my iron is for my ethnicity and my group. Challenge the status quo when you get the data that you need and advocate for yourself and advocate for your students with it. And you're going to need some meditations and mindfulness to be able to do that. All right. Let's look at, oh, sorry. I'm going to pause once again for questions. I know I'm moving faster because we want to, but question time. Anybody have any questions or comments? Anything that they wanted to say about how we use data to start to bring in SEL and figure out what are the issues and figure out how we can use those social emotional learning tools that are out there to create equitable systems. And also how we can meditate and relax and focus to be able to go through the data and collect the data and deal with the sometimes startling things that data comes up with. Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to keep going, take a sip of water and keep going. Once again, you can all leave at any time. I'm going to go through these slides so I can be able to put them together. And when I put them together, we're going to add in the videos of us teaching the classes and the techniques and stuff that we couldn't fit into this. So with the videos and with the different PDFs that we have will be even more information on how we can apply the freedom system to our equity issues. Here we go. Relevancy and rapport. So when we're talking about relevance and rapport, once again, we're talking about that change of version. I need yoga to help me focus on my advanced placement classes. Okay, it's relevant to her that she needs something. To Rosa Marie Aguado, it's relevant to them because they need something for their advanced placement classes. Connor Hamilton, I can smoke weed. I can't smoke weed, so yoga helps me calm down. It's relevant to him to be able to calm down. So he finds that within yoga. Okay, cool. Yael Amari, we stretch all the time in football practice, and I like to keep doing it because it feels good. Yael is just trying to deal with stress, trying to feel good, and trying to implement a practice that he does. And I like to bring up some of this, the folks who said some of these things about yoga because they first had to change their mind about it and had to see it as something that was beneficial for them. Now, when I work with kids, and when I work with adults as well, but especially when I work with kids, my little babies, the elementary kids, I like to bring in the stories. All right. I like to bring in the stories because stories make things relevant to kids um, and adults too, but stories make things relevant to kids. When they hear a story, like, oh, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. And they're able to connect. And with the adults, I mean, with the older kids, I like to talk about the influencers to create that sense of awareness. So we got LeBron James here. That illustration, a lot of youth are into anime, and this is an anime rendition of a hip hop artist. And then we got Beyonce. Everybody loves Beyonce, but I like to really include the influencers. Hey, these people do yoga. Oh, what? Okay, it's cool. It gives them permission to do it. So I like to once again create that relevancy within them and build that rapport. And when I'm talking to older people and to high school kids, I tell them my story. I tell them how about I was stressed, depressed, and anxious, and luckily I had a supervisor at my job back in as I was therapist. I was telling you, so I had a supervisor, and she was like, "Yo, James, you're looking kind of down. You're looking kind of stressed. Why don't you try some yoga?" No, black men don't do yoga. That was my mindset. That was something I was averse to just because I didn't see many black men doing yoga. Go ahead, try it. All right. I get to the yoga studio and what is that smell? It smells all weird and funky in there, and we got all these people rolling out mats. I'm like, this is crazy. And why is everybody so old in here? Older ladies in there doing yoga. I'm like, I'm an athlete. This is about to be easy. Finally, I roll out my mat, wipe it down, and it's peaceful, it's calm, it's relaxing. And then we get to these downward dogs and these chaturangas, these plank poses, and I see these older ladies just moving through them with ease. And me, I'm breathing hard and struggling and racking my brain and trying to keep it going. But at the end of the class, when we were in our shavasana and I was able to pause and take a break, I felt relaxed. I felt calm. I felt like that anxiety and depression and worry, it paused for a second. I was able to clear my mind and take a break. And I share that story because everybody's going through some stuff, especially now. So to even have an opportunity to see peace and relaxation in somebody else's life is an opportunity they feel like they can have for themselves. And creating social emotional learning programming through yoga, meditation, mindfulness gives people a bridge to that place where they want to be, especially kids who are overstressed and worked out. So we bring in these experiences, we bring in these stories to help them connect. And as I said, working with the babies, we created this story. This is a book, and it talks about some social emotional learning skills for the third graders and elementary kids and babies. And it puts all these skills within a book. And it puts it in a book who the person looks like me and the co-author, DeVille. So it provides representation of a student doing something that is positively, emotionally healing for them. So it helps them to see, hey, this kid's doing it, cool. And we can give these to all kids just so they can start to see a different version of what stories and things look like and how they can address themselves and other kids within the story. We all want to include ourselves within the story. And One of the most powerful things to connect with kids is for them to find themselves within the story. And then with adults as well, I like to tell my story of struggling to create a sense of self as I left my profession as therapist to do this work. And as I do so, I want to make sure that adults make it relevant and create a sense of awareness within all the adults that students interact with. Janitors, the bus drivers, the teachers, the aides, the office work people, all having a set of skills that they can rely on to practice social emotional learning. I've seen it so many times where I come into the front office and the front office person is just stressed out. Oh, you gonna do yoga? You gotta go to room 3B and hurry up, and I gotta answer this phone and do this and do that. How about we incorporate some time for the front office person just to breathe and relax and calm down? How about we make sure that the janitor, the custodian, has an opportunity to just stretch with the youth throughout the day and feel good? So when they see a whole school environment taking social emotional learning serious and engaging in it, it creates opportunities for them to really implement it into their own lives. I had a bus driver who he would be yelling the whole time, just yelling at the top of his lungs from the point he picked us up to the point we got to school, stressed out. And he even ended up passing away. One morning, we got to the bus stop and he didn't come. And we were going crazy. We ended up even missing school that day. Like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we found out he passed away. He died. Like, oh, wow. What happened? And he didn't have those skills to take care of himself. So making sure the whole school has an environment of adults who are practicing social emotional learning and creating that into the structure. Cool. So I'm moving through it. We still got how many slides left? Any questions right now? Ooh, we still got 20. I said 20 earlier. We still got about 20 now. Any questions, comments, things that you guys want to express, any stories you guys have or anything? Cool. If you guys are still here, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You can also just take a second to drop in the chat. What ways do you interact with youth? Parent, counselor, teacher, principal, administrator, mentor, however you interact with youth. We're going to get through. Ooh, we got some slides. We're going to get through some more. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I have some special gifts for you. I will send you all. Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Trisha. Cool. Thank you so much, you guys, for hanging in there. All right, we're getting through it. Cool. So we got some tools of engagement. So when we're talking about social emotional learning, we're talking about how to manage all of the different things that we're going through social emotionally. And me, I really like to focus on meditation, mindfulness, yoga postures, breath work, challenges, activities that are important in social emotional learning. All right. So these are all tools because these are tools that can be equitably used. You don't need to be of a social emotional status, social economic status to practice meditation. You don't have to be of a certain gender to practice mindfulness. Yoga can work for any and everybody. I have worked with yoga with students who had disabilities with hearing, who were bound to a wheelchair, students who, if you have a body, you can breathe into it, you can do some yoga. And breath work doesn't cost a thing. Y'all can all take a deep breath right now, and it doesn't cost you a thing. But it does have the impact of calming, relaxing, and working with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to help bring you back into the focus that you rely on to accomplish the tools and the things that you need to do. Challenges are fun, and you can make challenges even more equitable by including where everyone is there. So, hey, everyone in this class is going to do this. Everyone who has the opportunity to go here or do theirs is able to do this. So challenges help us to create an equitable opportunity where we don't look at our differences. We look at how we can create synchronicity within ourselves. Good. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. And then activities. We go into some activities to help build our social part. We are active people. We play, we play, we play, we play. We play as adults, we play as children. So it's important that we practice play. All right. Meditation, educator mindset. So we talked about that a little bit before, how we use education to really address the issues within our mindset. I mean, some tough things to look at, some tough questions that we have, and being able to meditate helps us to get through it. And then parent stress. Parents need easy, accessible tools that they can do with their kids and not even or by themselves. And then we like to use meditation for student success. Can you take a breath? Can you relax? Can you focus so you can study for the test or calm down and relax your test anxiety, even your anxiety on the football field or the basketball field? Being able to check in and meditate is a huge part of students succeeding as well as parents and educators. All right, we have a tough question. 4 questions for committing to equity. And this is something that we meditate on. Like I said, there's various meditations, and I'll send you guys some more information about meditation and how you can find out more. But this is a question that helps us to commit to equity that really brought up a lot of feelings and things within me that I need to take some time to chill and meditate on. Do I accept that race and racism are embedded in our society and that the reality of privilege and power is real? And we can implement that sexism, we can implement ableism, ageism, as well as race and racism. But is that an accepting thing that we are willing to take on? How do I engage and are we willing to take on our privileges? I am a man. Yes, I'm a Black man, but I'm still a man. I have privileges within the society that I have to check every day. How I show up in my spaces, and especially in spaces of education that are a lot levels, primarily women. It's not a good idea for me to mansplain. It's not a good idea for me to take advantage of my male privilege in any way. It's not a good idea. It's not right. So I have to constantly check in with me and my male privileges. How do I engage during conversations about race or any of the other inequities? Am I listening and talking? It took me a while to be able to check my views, my enabled to sexist views. Just being real with you all of just like, oh wow, I'm not entitled to that behavior, to that whatever, just because I'm a man. I had to get checked. I had to get informed, and it was something where I had to change my mindset and look at it different. I had to be informed about race issues. Being a Black man, it still was just some things I had to learn about what racism looked like within schools and within the systems that I'm in. I had to go inside. How can I use my privilege in my platform as a man? How can I use my privilege in platform as a white person, as a able-bodied person, as a hetero or LGBT person? How can you use your privileges to create access and for other folks? How do I process and accept my own development of racial identity? And especially I went to a Black school, historically Black college university, Xavier University of Louisiana. Before that, I was at a very diverse school here in the Inland Empire. Before that, I was in Tustin, where I was the only Black student in most of my classes, if not the whole school. And I experienced racism. Before that, I was in Compton, going to school with plenty of Black and brown, if not all Black and brown folks. How do I address my identity racially if I've had all those experiences? Or if you're looking at our own selves and, hey, there's somebody Black that I'm, but it's something to meditate on. It's something to really focus on and look at and be mindful of. So I'm just going to give us all a second. We're just going to take a little second to really think about how equity pops up within our own lives. Sexism, ableism, racism, gender, orientation. It affects us and affects the students that we work with. Just take a second to notice if your body posture and what's going on and what's happening. Just notice, just take a second just to be mindful. Just to be mindful. And as we are mindful of ourselves, maybe we're tapping our toes, maybe we're squirming in our seats, maybe we are squinching, whatever. Just being mindful of when we bring up these things that could be uncomfortable about race, gender, and equality, and economics. How do we treat students who come to school with the dirty shoes and who are on the free lunch? Just being real and asking ourselves these questions. And when we're talking about mindfulness, what kind of interventions can we provide to be able to stop and pause and address the difficult situations? How can we incorporate mindfulness into our days? What does it look like to have a mindfulness check-in? What does it mean to acknowledge our privilege and our power? And can we be mindful of it enough to share it? Can we even imagine sharing power with a parent, sharing power with a student, sharing power with the bus driver, the janitor, sharing power with teachers' aides, and the people who are not? I have encountered some professionals who are the queens and kings of their classroom, and for them to share any kind of power sometimes they feel like a threat. But then looking at it and being mindful of the more we let go of what we conceive and perceive as power, the more we show up as presence for our children that we are working with. And what kind of images are we providing in our room? There was a school who they decided to change their mascot because they were the Braves or they were the Indians, and then they decided to change their mascot to one of those dream catchers to celebrate instead of what they felt like was appropriating the native culture that was there. And how are we mindful in our communication? As I talked about earlier with the principal in the school, how are we mindful of what we are communicating to our staff, what we're communicating to each other, whether it be verbal or even an email? Can you be mindful in your email? Can you remember to include all you need to include? Can you remember that people are probably going through a lot that day? Can you remember to say thank you? Can you remember to express gratitude and to follow up? Mindfulness in our communications, what does that look like for you? And how can we incorporate that in an equitable way? Breath work, we talked about being able to breathe. And when we talk about breath work, we're talking about the different moods and things we go through the day and different experiences that we have as human beings. How can we use it to energize, to calm, to relax, to focus, and to unite us internally and externally? The breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. So we're going to just take a breath. Once again, finding yourself in that power position, the power to let go. And we're just going to breathe. We're going to breathe in for a count of 3 and breathe out for the count of 4. Starting on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's breathe in for 1, 2, 3, and breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in for 1, 2, 3. Breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in for 1, 2, 3. Breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. Take a deep inhale. Sometimes you need that energizing breath to keep pushing through your day, and sometimes you need that breath to calm down the class or relax your body after you just came from running out there with the kids or just getting into an argument with your spouse. Focusing and uniting your body and your mind through the breath. That's one of the most important tools that we can do anytime throughout the day. How are you including it in the work with your kids? Before you hop into that car, can you take a breath? And turn the radio on, and as soon as you strap up those seat buckles, getting ready and being mindful and breathing into your journey. We're going to talk about and give you some more ways to incorporate breath. Challenges. We talked about challenges a little bit. How can we make challenges fun? We do the 15-second chill out challenge. We have a whole video about that, but before every class with the kids, we do a 15-second chill out challenge. All right, you already know what it is. You have 15 seconds to relax, be still, be cool, calm, and collected. All you got to do is breathe. And every time you hear a number, it's going to remind you to breathe. Get into your yoga power seat, cool position, and allow yourself to relax. And on the count of three, with a hand clap, I'll start. And when you hear that hand clap again, it'll be 15 seconds and you will be cool, calm, and relaxed. Everybody close their eyes, chill. Stop squirming. Good, good, good. Get comfortable. 1, 2, 3. Boom. And I count from 1 to 15. And I keep reminding them of the challenge. Can you be still? Can you be relaxed? Can you be calm? Can you stay focused on your breath? And as I'm taking them from 1 to 15, the challenge gets them interested. The challenge gets them engaged. And the breath and the relaxation gives them that focus and calm that they need to begin our yoga class. So we have some more challenges and games that we get into that we share in the course that we do. 15-second chill out challenge. All right. And that also can be for parents as well. And we want to make sure that what we bring into the different mindfulness practices that we bring in are representative. So we want to ensure texts serve as both mirrors and windows. So when reading mirrors, students see themselves and see their lives reflected in a text they read. Windows, on the other hand, enable students to gain understanding and appreciation of experiences different from their own. So within the book, Timmy Tut for me is a mirror because I get to see a little boy that looks like me growing up. Cool. And then other books that don't feature kids that look like me, they're windows where I get to see opportunities of how other kids or how other adults are handling their stress and handling building relationships. So all the activities that we do, whether it's books, videos, handouts, we like them to be both mirrors and windows. Keep fresh sources. There's so much information out there. Let's keep our sources fresh. Keep them updated with the different new and cool tools and tips that we can use. Because if we don't have our library together of resources that are fresh and cool to use, the kids will get burnt out and we'll get burnt out. And that's not social emotional learning. And then rely on the experts. You are busy raising your children, teaching the teachers, bring in an expert. And that expert could be somebody on YouTube. That expert could be the guy at the YMCA that does some stuff, some yoga. Just bring in the experts so the kids and the staff can experience someone who has full-time focused on social emotional learning. And they can bring it in an equitable way. Ensure content is diverse in how it looks, diverse in how it impacts people. Make sure it's diverse. And one of the biggest parts of making sure it's diverse is asking them for the representative language. So what does diverse language look like? Ask the kids, ask the parents. How can we represent your language when in there? I dread getting older one day and trying to say some cool stuff. And the kids are like, nobody says that anymore. Get out of here, old guy. Oh, man. But it's probably going to happen one day. So I have to ask them, hey, is this appropriate language for you? Can I use this? Can I say this? Does this work? Does this connect? Being able to understand the language and even the body language and the language that they use in their daily lives. Me connecting with their language is a huge part of, yes, bring it back, is a huge part of making sure this works for it to be equitable to build the structures of social emotional learning into the systems. Cool. All right, postures. Yoga helps us connect with our whole selves. We're going to do some yoga postures. We're going to move a little bit here because I've been sitting down way too long. Once again, I didn't think this was going to go this long. I'm glad. This is awesome. This is great. But I want to make sure we get some movement in. So we're going to do some movement as soon as I'm able to find where my screen is. Oh, here it is. All right. Thank y'all for chilling out. We're going to just, of course, start with the breath. Do just a couple of moves. We're going to start with just some shoulder rolls. I'm going to take these shoulders. I'm going to inhale, bring them up. And then exhale, roll them back and down. Inhale, take these shoulders and bring them up. And exhale, roll them back and down. One more, take a deep inhale, shoulders roll. Things are popping. Woo, things are stiff and tight. Roll them back and down. Good. Dropping my head to the left and the right. Rolling my head around. Breathing deep. Moving the arms, moving the hands, getting the circulation back. Bringing the hands up and moving to the left and to the right. Just moving the body. Good. Standing up. I gotta stand up. Shaking it out. Cool. So of course we have a lot of videos about yoga and how we can do yoga with staff, yoga with parents, and yoga with students. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit, but we have plenty of videos available, and we'll share some with y'all. We're getting to the end, y'all. We're getting to the end. We have a couple more slides. I want to take another pause here. If there's any questions, comments, thank you so much for dropping the comments in there. Yes, I know. I feel like I'm going to be very sad when I'm not hip, but I know it's already happened. I'm not hip, so I ignore it. All right, from middle school, cool. We have some middle school teachers in here. Thank you so much, Kay, specialist recently put in charge. Awesome. Cool. All right, just wanted to make sure you all have time to express anything. Cool. If nothing, I will express my gratitude for you all still hanging in here. Thank you so much, Vanessa, Kay, Claudia, Trisha, Stephanie. Really appreciate you. All right, but we'll keep it going. So I want to make sure you all have the whole course available. So let's jump into it. Let's keep it going. Empowerment is a huge word. We want to empower our students. We want to empower our students and staff. We want to empower our adults. Let's include check-ins and questions for adults in the home. All right. So this is really talking about empowering. And empowering took a whole nother form when COVID hit. So we had to empower parents to become teachers and educators and mentors. So when we include homework and activities, let's also include a check-in for parents and adults in the home. Hey, how does your mom and dad feel? Or how does your grandmother, your auntie, your cousin feel? So they feel like they're being cared about too. Hey, mom, hey, dad, guardian, this question here says you got to answer it. How do you feel today? Wow. Let's empower them to make sure they understand they are important and stay connected to the schoolwork. Include lessons kids can learn about and with family. So we probably done a family tree, but how can we do a family tree that is focused on nourishing the roots? Hey, parent, guardian, how do you take care of yourself? What does self-care look like for you? What does it look like for you to build healthy relationships? Mom, I haven't seen you talk to your friends in a while. When's the last time you talked to your friends and connected with people? Including lessons where the students are learning, and we can also bring it up with the parents and the folks at home as well. So making sure those are involved. And co-designing curriculum, let's bring the students into the curriculum that we're creating. Hey, I thought about you, or this is something that you all talked about you wanted to learn. How can we incorporate this into our curriculum? Parents, how can we incorporate social emotional learning into our curriculum for you? Let's work together. Once again, if you have a little skin in the game, as they say, then you're going to be more into it, more ready to participate in the wellness practice that we're doing. Value cultural, communal, and family values and principles. So this one was huge. This one is a part of the transformation of education where, yes, the system is the system, and we value tests and we value performance. But how do we start to incorporate the valuing of grandma's wisdom and granddad's ability to fix something, or the power of dad just really being there for his kids, and the value of the family sitting down and having dinner. How do we incorporate and empower families to be able to understand that their lessons at home are just as important, even more important than algebra and all the other lessons going on in school? All right. A free resource page. All right. So we're all about resources and making sure we give as many resources as we can to students, educators, and parents. A lot of times, parents are the ones and students are the ones inundated with resources, but we got to make sure our teachers and educators and mentors have resources as well. So we're providing resources and always looking out for new resources to bring forth for the people that you work with. All right. And this is really cool because we love the way we teach our classes. We put it together to make sure that the students become the masters. All right. The students become the masters. So at the end of our sessions, the youth, they teach the classes. And we provide all our classes where the parents, the adults, the staff, it's easy for them to incorporate what they are doing into their daily lives. So don't rely on me, don't rely on videos, don't rely on any of the experts. You are the master. So we teach you the skills to incorporate into your life. It's if we share skills with you and you never see us again, we still want you to be empowered to be the master of your own social emotional learning. And you can incorporate it into any way possible. That is the most equitable thing when people become their own masters, when they become their own masters of their wellness. That's the most equitable thing that we can do. And so that's how we build our program. All right, moving through, getting done. Almost done. We have, what is that? Where's the counter at? We got like 6 more slides. So we'll go through them. All right. Developing our practice. All right. So we're in the D. This is the D of freedom. Developing practice. Combine engaging academic content with SEL and PE. So there's some ideas to make sure they're staying up to date with their practices. And this is, we got to remind people, this is not a punishment. Instead of, we're going to make you do meditation instead of suspend you. We're going to make you breathe instead of be on punishment for something. No, this is a practice that is just incorporated into all of our lives to be able to gain greater awareness of ourselves and build long-term strategies for healthy and well kids and healthy and well adults. So we want to develop those practices, and that's a big part of the providing the resources, providing the trainings, continuous trainings, and updating. We want to develop the practices so you always have your practices at hand. There's going to be something that tests you. There's going to be something that makes you anxious, worried. There's going to be something that frustrates you. But as you continue to develop your practices within relationships, within self-management, within managing your emotions, managing your thoughts, and making better decisions, the more you practice, the more you'll be able to accomplish it. All right. So create new opportunities. We want to address that opportunity gap. We want to look right in his face and address it. And we want to continue to develop new ways to do that. And then we want to ensure representation. It's important to provide as much representation as you can. Even if you're in a place where there is no representation in your local area, bring somebody in that looks like the 10 students that you have, the 5 students they have that represent that. Every student matters. Be able to ensure representation and create that power share where students and adults are leading the social emotional structure to create that equity, because it can't be a top down. How are you going to tell me what's best for me to manage my emotions and feelings? So when we make it equitable, we make it bottom up and top down to make help make those processes, things work together. Always talking about healing. Like I said before, we have been in a traumatic system and we always want to continue to heal and work through some things. All right. So we, in my excitement, I forgot to do our poll. We were supposed to do a poll for some stress and kind of just some things that we were observing. But the O for our freedom model is observe. Once again, collecting the data that we have monitored, monitoring the progress, what's working, what's not, and how can we use that information to make our programs even better. And some of the things we also have to observe is what is not working. Observing play. Play is once again a huge thing that we want to incorporate in social emotional learning and how it works. One of the things that we also want to look out for is gaslighting kids. Hey, let's acknowledge your emotions so you can fit back into our social structure and get back to work, get back to the real work. So this has been an issue where educators, people are just, I need you to acknowledge your emotions so then you can shut them down and get back to the work. The real work is acknowledging your emotions and working through them. It's not just about trying to make kids fit into the system, trying to make kids achieve the test scores and all that. It's about allowing them to be their whole self, their whole Black self, their whole disabled self, their whole female self, their whole whatever self that is coming into the place. So we can't negate their wholeness just to make them fit into our systems that we have into them. And that's going to take them to give them space to feel, space to deal, space to grow through whatever emotions that they have. And so we encourage play, we encourage truth and realness. And this is going to take a tremendous amount of work on us as educators and adults because we're used to the way the system works. We're used to dealing with things the way we deal with them. So to be able to incorporate play and being honest and emotionally expressive and giving them space to do that with a full range of emotions, that's where the SEL work comes in with us and our meditation, our yoga practice, our healing circles, our check-ins, our breath work, and making sure it's a part of what we do on a daily basis. All right, so we made it all the way to the M, to the measure part. And once again, we were supposed to have a measurement here, but we got excited and we forgot about it. So when it comes to measuring our youth and what's working, what's not, it is all about making sure we can measure to replicate. So how can we use the measurements that we found? This worked, this didn't work. Cool. Now let's build a model out of it and continue to work for the next year. And like I said, this is a long-term strategy. This is a long-term strategy of building in social emotional learning to our equity that we are doing. So we have our freedom model. What's very first? F, figuring it out, what's working, what's not working, taking our assessments. Then we have the R for the relevancy and the rapport, getting that buy-in for staff, students, parents to be able to gauge. And then we have the engagement. All right, this is what's not working, what's not. We have you guys interested. Now let's be able to engage and bring it in. And then we bring in, as we engage, we develop them there. We bring them back into the system and help them to empower them so they can start to have that practice for themselves and create that impact within the community. And then we develop their practice so they know what they're doing. It's not just on the mat thing. It's not just when I'm at school. I'm developing myself so I can be a social emotional learner within all systems of my life that we are in. And then we have the O, where we're observing the work that we have done, tweaking it, making better improvements on it, and doing all that we can. Then we have the M. We measure what we've done. We got some more data, and we take that data and build our powerful practice out. So I wanted to share that with you because I believe that equity has to have social emotional learning within it to be able to work. So this is just a piece of the work that we're doing. I know this is an hour over when it was supposed to do, but there's even more information and data that we have. So we put together a course, and in the course it includes all the videos where it breaks down the instruction, it breaks down the informational, it gives you different rubrics so you can start to measure where you're at, different activities and skills and tools to be able to help you to provide that equitable sense into your social emotional programming that you want to do. So we built a course out. We're going to walk you through. We're going to go. We're going to add some of these pieces in the video because we love your comments, we love your questions, and we want to take that back and really fill out and build the course even more. But we have years of work that we put into these courses that we do. So we are definitely looking forward to sharing that with you. I've used so much of your time, and I appreciate you. We went way over. I do want to find out if there's any comments or questions. If you guys are still there, I know Jeopardy is off, and unless you recorded it, get back to watching Jeopardy and everything else. But if there's no comments or no questions or anything like that, I definitely thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I've held you all so long. I will send you guys all the information and link to access the course and everything. And thank you. I greatly appreciate you all so much. And until next time, in yoga, we always say namaste to close out the class. And namaste is a word that really means the real in me, the peace in me, the joy in me, recognizing you as well. So as always, feel free to feel free. And namaste. Peace. Thank y'all so much. Namaste. Everyone have a good evening. And I'll see you soon. Peace.